Welcome back to the show, folks. So, who is Levinson in this? This guy, he disappeared in, I think, 2013. No, before that. No, okay, so he'd gone to, here's the story. Okay, the plans were ready. On the $250,000 payoff cash was committed. So that this got real expensive over time.
Real fast.
$250,000 was enough to get this guy out allegedly in 2018. A former Air Force intelligence officer named Bob Kent, who's also named in the other stuff, was planning to board a plane in New York for the Middle East on a most improbable secret mission, freeing Robert Levinson from Iran. Levinson, an ex-FBI agent, well into a second career as a private detective, had disappeared over a decade earlier from a hotel on Iran's Kish Island. He'd been seen only twice since then. First in a hostage video his family received from unknown intermediaries in 2010. Then in photos 3 years later showing the then 63-year-old increasingly haggard and begging for help. So in 2010, they got photos of this dude. At first, the U.S. government claimed it had no knowledge of why Levinson, an expert in Russian organized crime, put a pin in that, had gone to Iran. The Iranian regime denied it was holding him, but in 2013, the Associated Press and other news outlets revealed that the ex-agent had gone to Kish on an off-the-books CIA mission to probe high-level Iranian money laundering. I don't know. They don't have a link to that article, which I find very curious. But whatever. To the Levinson family, that explained why the government had not adequately pursued his release over the years, or in a prisoner swap the Obama administration conducted with Iran. So the Obama administration worked on all this other stuff, but this guy, had previously been sent in, and it was on it was an off the books, under the table, some CIA operatives trying to get this dude to get in there and take a peek. The possibility also existed that rival factions in Iran had not been able to agree on his release after years of denying it had him. So there was a back and forth about that part of it. Desperate, his family put its own plans into motion to win his release. In doing so, they shared the plight of scores of families who loved ones have been snatched by the Iranians or Hezbollah, their Lebanese proxy, over the decades, including at present 4 Americans and a U.S. permanent resident held by Iran. Levinson's past FBI employment and then revelations of his murky CIA mission lend his case more gravity, of course, not to mention mystery. But in 2013, Levinson earned yet another dubious distinction. He became the longest-held U.S. hostage in American history. March 9th will mark the 12th anniversary of his disappearance. So this has been going on for a long time. Bob Kent, everybody at the, in Florida politics, has been linked to his family, and they've been trying to get this dude out for a while. And the price tag to get him out went from $250,000 to $25 million, apparently, because of the number of people added to the chain to get him out.
It's a lot of zeros.
It's a lot of zeros compared to the original part of it. Gaetz himself, oddly enough, may have contributed to this guy's death, according to the lawyers and the people representing the folks that are trying to get him out. Because it was an immediate request, they needed it happen right away, and they needed to start making payments about this. The dad had agreed to do this, and then they blew up the whole thing. So the irony that Matt Gaetz goes on Tucker Carlson and says, "Oh yeah, we're actually the New York Times blew up the FBI investigation that my dad was helping them with, not the other way around, that they blew up the Levinson family's chance of getting their relative out after all these years because they decided it was more politically advantageous for Matt if indeed they just, I guess, used it as PR cover for this investigation themselves. They didn't believe it would pay off. It might have been the whole, I can assure you we can get a Biden pardon. That might have been the step too far. I'm going to guess. Yeah? So, and by the way, don't forget, guys, twitch.tv/AlSparks. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe, and it doesn't cost you a dime. It's just lovely.
Is there a chance that this stuff was written up and they thought that Trump would still be president?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe they just, they white out Biden's name or Trump's name and wrote in Biden in the original document, whatever. I've talked to the President Trump, and I'm sorry. I'm still, it's so funny. It's 2021. I'm still writing Trump on my checks. So this, I think, let's see, Gaetz on Fox News Tuesday night said his father wore a wire in order to assist. That's, by the way, that is not confirmed by the documents from his lawyer or his cooperation with the FBI. That's a story. There is no way the FBI releases tapes on an ongoing public corruption investigation. Why would they do that? Why would they release the tapes before they go
could
to...
use some help. You know, a lot of those internet sleuthers.
Why would it... that I'm like, how are you... Again, I don't know. How dumb this dumb. It's stunning. Like, but again, he knows, I guess this is the ploy, he knows the FBI cannot or will not release that tape. So by asking for it, he can allow for the inference thereof that it exists and that it is exculpatory. Right? That's right, like the use of the word extortion versus blackmail, which it is neither, we now know. And we now know, of course, that you can't, no one extorts a loan and interest free and promises interest if they can't follow through on the extortion. This is mind blowing. Because I know he was making this defense. I've seen him do it. I know he's going to try this full PR push. But Gaetz's PR team, if you're watching or this gets back to you, that was the dumbest move you could possibly do. Releasing the Project Homecoming document proves it's not extortion, proves it's not blackmail, proves that these guys thought that they could use this as at least personal pressure because they believe the evidence exists or they themselves have seen it or people that they know personally have told them as a primary source, I've seen the pictures. These girls, we looked into it. These are girls. These are not women. What's going to come out in the Joel Greenberg trial and what's going to come out in the FBI investigation is horrible. And the only thing that will protect him is a blanket presidential pardon. It's the only shot he has.
Yeah.
And by the way, the whole, like his lawyer saying, and calling it an attempt to defraud, the scheme to defraud, that's because his lawyer doesn't believe it will help. The fraudulent part isn't we're going to go get Robert Levinson and bring him back. The fraudulent part isn't we're going to get your money and we're going to give it back to you once we get the reward for going and getting Robert Levinson and bringing him back. Right? The fraudulent part is you can make good. The fraud is you can't get him a pardon. The fraud is you can't make this investigation go away. The fraud is how do you stop something that's already gone to a grand jury in the state of Florida and the DOJ in Washington and provide, once you said we could get we're pretty sure we can arrange a pardon from Joe Biden. That's fraud, according to Don Gaetz's lawyer. It has to be. Yeah. I'm stunned. I really, really am. I don't know how you get this dumb this quick. There is, and by the way...
And he's just going to keep stepping in it so hard because he can't stay quiet.
He cannot. And because he thinks that's the only... the prof is saying in there, thank you, Dana. Appreciate it. This is the only out he has. Literally. Be in the public eye. And I've said this before, there's a reason why people over the last 25 years since basically the Real World, the original one, have sought fame more than money most of the time. Because fame is more resilient than money. You can run out of money and people still recognize you on the street and might buy you a drink, right? That is a reality we live in. And in a media world, they have now weaponized the concept of the other side in terms of media on the Republican side as literally, it used to be that my reason for being is I fight for this, and this, which the other side does not fight for. I'm unique in this. And because I'm uniquely fighting for your rights and your needs, they are against me. And therefore, all the stories they create against me are fake news because I'm protecting you from them, right? That's the baseline premise that the Republicans have been selling for a long time. The problem is they're no longer fighting for those things. They aren't. They're not fighting for public safety. They're not fighting for, safe streets, clean drinking water, freedom, any of that stuff. It's all bumper sticker nonsense. They don't actually fight for it. So without that, now the argument is, it's just because I'm an outspoken conservative. Because Matt Gaetz has to say that because he hasn't presented any bills. Dude has not brought any bills to the floor.
But he says no.
That's right. Yeah, but that again in the era of build that wall, there are a bunch of Republicans who are running on, and Mitch McConnell's primary amongst them, running on the idea that they are a wall. Right? That is it. They are, Mitch McConnell, while Trump was saying build that wall about the southern border, that inhabited the spirit of the Republican Party, which is now the party of no. Right now, you have somewhere in the order of 45 to 60% of Republicans support the infrastructure package or a variation thereof that supported the COVID relief package that Biden got passed in its entirety. Not like, a smaller one. I would rather. A majority of them supported the package, and so much so that Madison Hawthorne and other folks are going home to their districts and claiming it as a victory, even though they voted against it. There is literally an argument right now that when you talk about Republicans and you describe them for what they are worth in the political sphere, you are not talking at all about Republican voters. Because you're looking at if they're split 50-50 on most stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when the electorate for your party is split 50-50, but the entirety of your elected officials are basically running interference against something that 50% of your constituents want, then you are no longer a representative government. You are
a wall.
You're a wall, right? You are literally running as a wall, and arguably with some success, being that wall. And the problem is, does filibuster reform and the ability to do these extra bills through reconciliation that have come through, and the ability to do anything that deals with budget and government spending, which is a whole heck of a lot, being able to move those through reconciliation, regardless of when, if they allegedly they have 3 more times this year that they can use reconciliation to get a bill through, as long as it deals with government spending as an amendment to budgetary reasons, which is nearly everything, including infrastructure. The infrastructure bill is going to pass on reconciliation. It simply is. And all the wailing and gnashing of teeth of Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin is old school leverage for their districts. Believe me, there are going to be some major projects that are going to get thrown to West Virginia to rebuild the dead coal industry in the case of West Virginia, and to help Kristen Sinema in Arizona help them connect what cities they have, because that's a whole lot of desert. And there's going to be a bunch of government stuff, whether they're going to bury uranium there and pay them rent or something, but those things are coming. And Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin will get something out of the deal, and then they'll end up signing off on a bunch of stuff. And stuff. Is
it about time for a break? Because Flora just yerketed.
Oh yes, it is. We got to take a break. It's perfect timing, actually. Thank her for reminding us. We'll be back right after this. We'll be back right after this.